What's up, Rockstars? I got another news video for you. We got a lot to talk about, from everything from like IP games to indie games that I haven't shown you before that I'm actually really keen on. I'll be pointing out a few of those. Tariffs, we got it all, so let's go ahead and dive in. Alright, so first a little explanation. I haven't made a video in a while. It's been actually exactly 1 week, and that was not intended. Actually, I wanted to have a quick follow-up to that, but my wife had some minor surgery on her hand. They like cut her here, and they cut her here, and they cut her here. It's crazy. Anyway, been helping out with that, trying to work from home and accommodate so that she can heal up properly. But it's kept me away from the hobby a little bit, except that she was able to get some game time in with me. We played Malediction. It was a ton of fun. Next up is some Resident Evil. We're having a blast over here, but it's kept me away from really doing all the extra effort that is this channel. I apologize for that, but I'm back and ready to talk about some campaigns, some cool looking games. Let's go ahead and start here with Helldivers 2, the board game. It's made $1.5 million by Steamforged Games. Still 8 days left to go, over 5,000 backers. One of the nice things, speaking of tariffs, we're going to get into a little bit, but not a whole lot. I might do a dedicated video if you're curious about my opinion on it shortly, but for this video, we're just covering the games. But what I will say is, when it comes to the campaigns and risk factor, Steamforged Games is pretty legit. They do tend to always deliver. They have multiple sources of revenue, including like retail, but they have a large kind of segment in like the RPG mini space and stuff like that. So that's good. And because they do these IP games, it tends to be a lot of backers, over 5,000. That's also quite nice. It means that it's well funded and they get, you know, kind of bulk order stuff like that. However, this is very much a big game, and that means expensive as well. So let's go and take a look at kind of where we're at here. So if we actually, I want to jump down to, and by the way, gameplay wise, it seems pretty neat. They're definitely pinpointing the parts of the game that a lot of people enjoy, right? So one of the things you can do, let me see where they actually talk about, they talk about rewards first. So how about like how the game plays, how to play. Here we go. So is this where I want? Choose your planet, select your mission. Yeah. Okay, so you have your ammunition, which is kind of cool. That's very appropriate that it has like an ammunition thing, right? That's obviously a big point there. You can call and resupply. You can coordinate mass fire, so you can like, it talks about prioritizing targets, time reloads. It very much coordinated squad-based attacks, especially on some of the larger minis. They do hordes pretty well by just having 3 on a single base, so they're saving money there, which is nice. Instead of a whole bunch of minis, you get some minis with several of them on it. That's how like a lot of like war games do it as well. Everything from Warhammer to others, where you know you get a whole bunch of little things on one base, as opposed to just a ton of bases, right? Calling in the big guns, so you can call in all the airstrikes, orbital walking barrages, all that kind of stuff, which is pretty cool. The enemies, this one I'm a little less certain of. Steamforged Games, I almost said SCP, that's later. It does a lot of this where it has just like symbols to deal with how it does stuff. This one seems better though, because it actually has some text up here too, which means that they do actually kind of like have some sort of like legitimate AI strategy, which seems to be kind of nice. And of course, big mini. So let's go ahead and talk about that. Let's go ahead and go to rewards. Okay, now this is crowdfunding, which means the all-in is always the most popular, unless you did something wrong, pretty much. The people that are backing these campaigns right now are people that are a little bit more well-off in the board game hobby, right? They're not looking for a screaming deal. And in fact, in some ways, you kind of don't want a screaming deal, because if it's too good of a deal, it means the margins are even tighter than normal. Maybe not exactly a gamble you want to do right now. This is already all a gamble. But 3,900, almost 4,000 copies of the all-in, which is impressive. And look at this, 5 different GameFound exclusive, campaign exclusive, crowdfunding exclusive expansions. What are those expansions? Well, they're pretty much all the big minis. So they're these like guys right here. They're like the huge minis, right, that you get which of course is a lot of fun. Very much a pimped out version. You don't need that to play the game, but variety is the spice of life, and when it comes to these, you definitely want to fight the big baddies as well. So I think obviously they're going to be really popular. They're about $56 each, and it's mostly just a big mini and then a couple cards and stuff like that. So nothing too bad there, and that's again for these three here. Yeah, the automaton you get a lot more of because it's like a whole other faction kind of thing, right? But either way, very cool to see. I think they're doing a good job here. I think they have the scale to do well with it, which is awesome. They seem to know the IP very well. That's very important for an IP. You know, when it was like the Horizon Zero Dawn, I always commented that I didn't feel like the actual like understanding of what made the IP good was there. But since then, whether it's Resident Evil, whether it's seemingly Elden Ring, I haven't gotten into it quite yet, whether it's this right here, right? They just seem to be doing a little bit better when it comes to focusing on what makes it great. And they have some cool freaking minis too, of course, which is awesome. So yeah, anyway, Helldivers 2 looks pretty cool. All right, next after that we have Ash's Ascendancy. Ascendancy is a kind of a long-standing game that's kind of done the test of time. It's very well reviewed. You can find a lot of reviews on there of the game, so you can definitely back with confidence there, which is nice. It's by Plaid Hat Games, which is a pretty legitimate company, so that also helps. And they're almost at 2,000 backers, so they got the scale going as well, which is awesome. Over 300,000 raised. They're doing quite well. This is essentially a kind of like a, well, here I'll show you. So the available rewards here, you get the starter set for 50. Right, and this includes pretty much the starter set. That's what you need to kind of start. 516 backers. You can get all the new stuff. So if you've been playing for a while, this is everything. $120. You get everything new. 923. This tells me a lot. This tells me that the people that play Ash's Ascendancy really enjoy it, and that's what this is showing here. With 1,000 people coming in for the new stuff. You have the new player plus 86, not too much there for 175, and then the all-in 205 for $500. So that $500 is a lot, of course. It's definitely big, but it comes with a lot of stuff, including like some pimped out stuff too that you don't necessarily need. So I think that's why the all-in is not backed as much, just because you don't like need everything. Like this is a fancy box and storage and all this other kind of stuff, right? So when it comes to here, this looks like a long list, and it is. And you'll notice the 1 times, you're like, oh, that doesn't look a lot. Each one of these is a deck. So this is deck upon deck upon deck upon deck upon deck of cards. This is a ton of stuff. You can see the giant pile of them here. A ton. This is a huge amount. That's why it's $500. But they say it's worth like $830 if you like bought it like retail and stuff like that, which honestly I believe. So yeah, either way, looks like some pretty good deals for a long-standing game. If you're interested, be sure to check out some reviews. I'm sure there's some great creators that have made some great reviews on this over time. I know Shut Up Sit Down has one, all sorts of stuff. So feel free to check it out. All right, then we have Reichbusters Reloaded. Now, this is something that, unfortunately, I was only able to just kind of learn about, but I haven't really gotten time with the new version yet. So I didn't come out with like a review or even a first impressions, but I've kind of read over things, and to be honest, this is what I wish Reichbusters was originally. There are 2 big points I want to make out here. Now, first of all, feel free to look at past reviews of Reichbusters. A lot of what's there, the core good is there, and they've fixed a lot of the bad. So I'll explain that in 2 ways. The first way is the noise mechanic. The noise mechanic was by far one of the things I hated the most about Reichbusters. Reichbusters, when it was Mythic Games, had some really cool card combos. You felt really strong. You had a really cool, like, you know, going quiet, going loud kind of dynamic there as well. And this one, I guess for the Mythic Games, the problem was you did a noise roll on pretty much everything. And when you did, it was 2 things. You had to roll dice and draw cards, and it often ended up being a nothing burger. Nothing happened. So you did a lot of mechanics. And in fact, it was the mechanic you interacted with the most, and it was also the most useless because most times nothing happened, which is good, but also kind of like lackluster to then go through the motions. They did in errata, Mythic Games did, where you had to do it less often. So certain actions you didn't have to do it. That helped mitigate a bad mechanic to not being as often of a bad mechanic, but it's still a bad mechanic. What they've done here, what Monolith has done, now that they own it, is essentially there's like a tracker, and if it makes noise, you just move the tracker. If the tracker ever reaches a certain threshold, then the alarm's triggered. It's as simple as that. They've streamlined it, they've made it make sense, it's thematic sense, but there's not all the rigmarole of like 2 different mechanics you have to do. You don't have to do it all the time. It's very easy to know when it happens, and it's a little bit more like deterministic too, because you know exactly what's going to happen. It's not like some crazy risk thing. So very cool to see that. I think that's a huge improvement. And again, a lot of the game was already really good. They just kind of cut out the fat and streamlined it a bit, which is really, really nice. Speaking of streamline, if we go to rewards here, this is pretty much it. They're not fussing about with a bajillion expansions. Pretty much the opposite of the Helldivers 2 thing, right? When you see all of this is like old school crowdfunding. This is what used to be a thing. And Monolith has really kind of turned it on its head now. Now it's just this. 2 boxes. This is the game. That's the SKU. That's what you get. Now, if you have the original Reichbusters, there are 2 upgrades available for you to get to this point. But this is really it. This is the thing. You back this, 184.55, it's done, you got the game. That's everything. They're not fussing about with a core game with a stripped down version and then the huge expansions over here. That's it, that's all of it. You got some giant minis in there, you got a whole bunch of scenarios in there. I love it. They've really taken to stride, like coming back from like Batman Gotham City Chronicles, great game, but it was honestly, they don't have the pickings, right? There are so many expansions, because back then that was okay. But lately they've really trimmed it down to just distilling, this is the game, this is what's on offer. And speaking of, you know, there's all this worry about tariffs and stuff like that. One of the great things, first of all, if you want to know what's changed, they've kind of mentioned it here. There's a lot more here, right? But again, the noise thing was the big thing for me. But if you go to game status, it's practically done. They're practically done. They're doing a little bit of proofreading, but otherwise they've already gotten the resin masters and molds already made. Now they're getting the physical samples shipped to them, where they'll do the final files and then they'll ship it after making it. As simple as that. Monolith is no longer coming here with like a game that's going to be years and years back. I know I'm flip-flopping a lot. One of the issues with IP games like Helldivers or like Elden Ring that I just received is I have not played Elden Ring in a long time. By the time you get Helldivers, you probably wouldn't have played Helldivers for a long time. It just depends, of course, right? Especially Helldivers, it's not like a single-player game, so you can play it like a lot longer. But IP is not necessarily super long-lasting all the time, right? And so it helps when it's going to deliver very quickly. Also, it reduces a lot of the risk because your money isn't out for so long. They have a good idea of how much the costs are going to be to manufacture, all that kind of stuff already taken care of. So super cool. Anyway, moving on from that, we have ZeroDay.exe, a deck building dungeon crawler board game. Again, it's a very cool combination between the two. I covered this in my last news video, so refer to that if you want details about the deck building dungeon crawler part of it. It's pretty cool though. 35 hours to go. So at the time of posting, you guys have hours to go. Again, link down in the description below for everything. They almost have 500 backers, which is a good threshold. They'll probably want to still order 1,000, which means ideally the more the merrier that come in. But maybe they can do a smaller one. Maybe they're not doing Chinese mass manufacture. I'm not exactly sure, because really all they have is like acrylic standees and the board game stuff, right? And then they do have some minis, but not necessarily, you know, like something too terrible. But the minis are kind of they have the transparent and the regular plastic, and so it is kind of a fuse between the two, which is kind of a specialty assembly version, right? Dual material miniatures, there you go, so you can see them right there. Now when it comes to who's buying it, 305 are buying the all-in pledge for 127. Really, that's the game plus the 2 character expansions plus minis for all of them, right? That's really what that is, which makes sense. And that honestly, that's the biggest one. If you wanted to go really small, right, 87 or 107, you may as well do the 127 at that point and just get everything. It's definitely the most common SKU. You'll have the less fuss with it, with that. Looks cool, though. Really dig it. All right, next, we have Dungeons & Lasers 7 Porthaven. Again, unlike the other Dungeons & Lasers that focused more on terrain with some characters, this is pretty much all characters and some doodads plus a big old freaking cool ship. This is by Archon Studio. They do fantastic work here. They've delivered like 17 campaigns at this point. They manufacture their own stuff out of Poland, like they are their manufacturer. It's fine. They're going to do great. It's going to be amazing hips and miniatures for sure. Now, there is a lot here, and you can get a lot. Again, this is number 7, okay? So quite a bit. So if you go to rewards here, the Pirate Lord All-In is $349. It is a buttload, a huge amount of plastic. And as you can see, 2,000 plus people have already gone for the All-In. People love this stuff, especially RPG players. They love it. Or just people who like painting minis. These are meant to be painted. Very cool. But even like they're just two core sets. Pick them. 403 times, right? So they've had some really good, $589 just for the freaking cool ship, right? So there's plenty of people that are backing all these different ones, but for the most part, again, it's crowdfunding. People go all in. It's just what you do. They don't bat too many eyes at $350, especially from a known quantity that is Archon Studio and Dungeons and Lasers. So yeah, a ton of unlocks, big minis, small minis, like silly minis, cool minis, doodads, a little bit of terrain stuff, even some stuff like the glossary and whatnot to help you out with campaign stuff. Very cool, very well thought out stuff. The dock system, that's awesome, fun. It's looking cool. By the way, the ship alone, about $200, right? It's a lot. The playable ship actually 160 isn't too bad. It costs more to do the transparent. I'm not sure that's actually legitimate. Normally the type of plastic you put in there, or the color of the plastic doesn't matter too much. However, I don't know if the transparent plastic has a different, when it comes to hips, if it has some different consistencies that make it a bit more difficult. I'm not exactly sure. But either way, it is what it is. That's what they're charging anyway. Looks super cool. About 2 days left to go on that one. All right, next up, we have Lobotomy 2 Dimensions of Madness. They're doing quite well, over 1,700 backers. So 11 days to go. So they're probably going to get about 2,000 backers. This has been going on for a while. So it's obviously a popular system that's doing quite well. It's by Titan Forge Games. They're a legitimate company there. And they've made about $236,000 on this. And now if we go to pledges, as you can see, it's as cheap as about 79 fake dollars, right? And then you can get other fake dollar amounts. Let's see if it does about what does it say here? About $90. About $90 is what we're looking at there, right? Which honestly seems like how much they would have charged in the past too. So it's not even that much more. But they have a ton of fun stuff, including, again, a huge amount. Now, a lot of this is already made in the sense that not all of it's new, and so they just have to use the molds they've already used. They just have to print the card files they already have. I'm much more okay with a big amount of expansions when it's a reprint, right? That to me, that makes a bit more sense. Still a little cautious. The more SKUs, the harder it is to, get everybody's order right, and just it costs more to like pick and pack it. But yeah, very, very cool. Some fun minis, good quality stuff. Yeah, looks cool. I like it. All right, next up we have SCP, the board game Confidential Crisis. This is over 1,000 people are following this, which is kind of fun. You can get a half cat as a free gift. This is by Dig Deep Gaming. It is definitely an indie effort, and you just have to kind of keep that in mind. Here's like some of the sculpts. Again, if you're into the SCP, it's an IP that I am not part of, but for some people, they love it. That's freaking crazy. Some of them are better quality than others, I would say. But definitely pretty neat. And again, if it fits IP, that's awesome as well. Again, some of it looks kind of silly. Some of it looks kind of cool. Some of it looks kind of wild. Some of it looks kind of scary. This is like the Boo Saga over here, right? He's like got chocolate. He's like super happy about it, and a lollipop, whatever. It's the Tickle Monster, I guess, or I think it's SCP-999. And the reason I know that, they got standees as well, by the way. So, again, not a whole lot here. However, you want to know more, here's the old Kickstarter campaign that was canceled. Again, exact same company, exact same game as far as I can tell. Just more obviously that you can see here. So feel free to check it out. And I don't know if they were doing, and see, like they changed her sculpt. They changed that sculpt. There's the half cat. It's probably about what you're going to get there. Again, I don't know what's all changed from this, but this was like 3 years ago, I think is when this, 2021 is when it was last updated. So been a while. I can't believe I've been doing the channel that long. My goodness. Well, here I am again, sharing the same exact game. Maybe this time they'll do well. I think it's been updated a little bit, by the way, because I can't quite tell, but it looks like his mini, I think, is different in this one. It just looks different to me. If nothing else, it's a better render. Okay, next up. We have Relic Wars. This is launching on Kickstarter soon, and this one actually looks pretty cool. I actually wanted to show this off, but I just don't have the time right now. As you guys know, I'm already kind of behind on a few things, especially when it comes to reviews, so I'm trying to focus on that. But I do like showing off some cool indie board games / skirmish games that kind of have some cool stuff. So essentially you have your up to 4 people playing, right? And you're, essentially the battlefield, you're discovering the battlefield has different parts in it, and you're doing different stuff. You have like equipment and all sorts of stuff like that. You're doing all these abilities. Eventually you become like the winner, but the winner then has to survive everybody targeting them. And it kind of reminds me of the first time I played the Shogun Total War video game. I became the Shogun, and then everybody declared war on me, and I'm like, what the heck? And then I died, and I got really upset because I didn't know that was going to happen, and I spent like 500 hours to get there. But that's not the point. The point is that it's a cool idea, and I like it in a skirmish game where it's like, okay, you're the winner, but now you got to survive a final round. That's who actually, did you actually win or not? I like that. So it's got some fun, cool stuff between the terrain, between the like 4-player, but you don't have a whole lot of like units or anything like that. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Black Rose Wars in that sense, where it's just you doing all the magic and stuff like that. Looks kind of cool. I actually kind of dig it. I'm hoping that they do well. It looks very streamlined when it comes to being able to like do stuff like cast spells and collect items and stuff like that. They're all these little tokens and stuff. But then as you can see, you have like some really cool looking fancy stuff as well. They also have an All Wars expansion, which I guess like turns everybody like undead or weird. Like here's all the ghosts in battle, so they can move easier, right? And they can temporarily control living characters. There's all this cool stuff here. The more I read about it, the more it's like this actually seems like a pretty legit thing. So anyway, feel free to check it out. Looks pretty cool. It's by an established company as well. Been around a long time, and it looks again streamlined enough to do well in today's market. So that's awesome too. Okay, moving on from that. We have Escape from Stalingrad Z Reloaded. This launches in a little over a day. This is obviously something that's been around for a long time. The Reloaded is a definite. I clicked it, now it's going to load. Why? I don't need it. Why would that be a reload game found? Come on. This is the title of the page. I'm not even like scrolled up or down or whatever. Anyway, whatever. It's been around a while. The Reloaded is used now commonly as essentially plus errata, like a new streamlined version or whatever. 8.2 already, and again, just getting better and better. Again, this is something that does really well in today's market because it is small, because it is indie, because it is indie but yet established, so there's not even that much of a risk there. Again, it's known for being, this is the game here, right? And if you want to have a little bit more, that's your expansion, just to add parts for your components, and it's fancy and nice, but that's it. It's really streamlined in that regard, which is super awesome. So yeah, if you want to play World War II versus zombies little skirmish game where you're playing inside the book and do all these scenarios, and it's like a big campaign and stuff like that, this is the game for you. It actually looks pretty cool. I dig what they're doing, and I'm glad that they're continuing to iterate on it with this reloaded version. Okay, next up we have the Green Conquest strategic steampunk board games. Now, I'm going to pause real quick. Let me know. Seriously, I want to know, did this ring a bell to you? Did you see me cover this years ago? Let me know in the comments below. You old guard, I know you're out there. Because the moment I saw this, I'm like, wait, I've read about, I know I've covered the Green Conquest, but this looks really different. And so I'm like, what's going on? I tried to do some digging here, and it was kind of iffy, and not all of it was in English, and it's whatever. This launches in 15 hours. It has over 2,600 people following. I don't know how long the GameFound page has been on for, but that's impressive, because The old one, which by the way was here, right? It now has the like version Francis or the French version. Oh man, I don't recall this part being here, but this is definitely what I saw. Now this is a preview page. It like never came out as far as I can tell. I don't think it was ever launched and canceled. The minis in this one, I'm going to show you the old version first, and we'll go back to the new version, because it's kind of similar, kind of not. You had these like wacky, I remember covering all of this, like legitimately. Look, it was going to be €59, crazy. These like crazy looking like vehicles that you're moving around in, and that just seems so unique to me, because that is, again, very different. But yeah, obviously this is not like the best page, right? It really isn't. But as you can see, these minis, these renders are bogus, right? But also like just crazy cool. Like it's just different and weird and wild. Okay. Going to the new one, you'll notice an art direction difference. And that's because now they have AI art. And that's really what's used here. But you'll notice something else. Here's the cool like vehicles, but I'm not seeing them here. In fact, all the minis now are just kind of like a token of some kind. So yeah, obviously it's iterated and changed a bit, right? I mean, that's obvious. You can see the vehicles, right? They're all here. So they got these crazy vehicles, you know, AI generated art stuff or whatever. You have the momentum, right? So again, this is the exact same thing as the vehicles, but now instead of the vehicle minis, you have like a wing to represent that. Or you have the snake to represent that, or the tentacle to represent. So it's like a representation of it. Kind of an interesting thing to do, to make a little abstract there. But it works, I suppose. It's kind of crazy. Now, they do show that the game board looks a lot better, I will admit. So I think that's nice. And honestly, some of these designs are pretty crazy, of course. But obviously the wacky minis were pretty fun as well. Yeah, and they have like what monster tiles with their supports of like turtles and like rats and junk, I guess. I don't know. They added one person here. If you go over on this one, they'd only list 2, and now they list 3. There they are, same people, right? So they've been working on this for a while. It's this, and as you can see, they have some like original art like back in the day before they did the AI stuff. There's the AI bit. You can go ahead and read that. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on this. This is crazy that it's been so long, and now here it is, launching in 15 hours. Kind of different than what it was, but also still kind of the same. Wild. Man, I've been doing this too long, guys. Okay, next up, Zeo Genesis scalable skirmish game comes out in about half a month. Now, one of the reasons this is super cool is because it's got mechs. The other reason is because it's got mechs. It's a cool skirmish game. It's got buildings. You get to move around. Actually, you get to move, and attack. You can do that in pretty much any order. I'm already thinking move, attack, and then move back. That's kind of cool. But if you can move twice, is there like any safe space, or is it just kind of like a brawl? And maybe it's got that different feel for it. It's like everybody's attacking turn 1. Something like that would be kind of cool. It does sound like you do alternate activations, which is pretty neat. The miniatures look quite nice. They look very well made, very well designed. And freaking Andy Chambers is attached to this, which is pretty cool. So you might notice some of these, Dan Morrison, Gav Thorpe, Danny Block, and Andy Chambers. But Andy Chambers has a lot of history with Games Workshop, 40K, Necromunda, all that kind of stuff. Back in like the glory days too. So pretty cool to see him attached to this. Seems kind of nice. People who played it at Adepticon and said it was pretty cool. I didn't have the honor of going to Adepticon, maybe someday, but yeah, either way, pretty neat. Okay, and finally, I just want to let you know I missed Trench Crusade, and I'm sad. Everybody's getting their stuff. It looks super cool. It looks awesome. This was like during the time when I wasn't able to focus on this, and I missed the whole campaign. And they were like super like quick on delivering, so I just missed all of my chances to get it. I now have to go to my manufactory and pay out the nose for it, but probably still worth it. Maybe you'll see some content. Let me know if that's something that interests you. It's a crazy skirmish game. Anyway, that's what I got, guys. Look, this was a lot to cover. Obviously, I wanted to go through pretty quick. I wanted to update you guys a little bit. I know there's been a lot of stuff coming out with, come on, I'll cover that. There's been a lot of stuff about tariffs. I'll maybe cover that. Let me know if you want my thoughts. But honestly, I think some of it's just like, I don't know, it looks bad. Like, you know what I'm saying? However, I wouldn't mind talking about it when it comes to campaigns and crowdfunding. Obviously, that is a specific space for how this can affect them, maybe what their alternatives are. Probably worth a video, but let me know in the comments below, of course. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if there's something else that you want me to look at, again, I'm all ears. I have an Apex Legends to unbox. That'll be next. I do have the rest of the other unboxing that I only put part of it. You know, it's like 2 hours. It's a ton of minis. I'll get over it. Okay, you guys will get it. It'll be a ton of it. You'll like it. It's good stuff. But also, I gotta get to it. Additionally, one last thing. I will be recording a couple of videos to go out so that you guys will actually get more videos, but it's because I will be away. My wife and I are going up to a cabin. We're not bringing our kids. We're going to pretend like life is great, and it's just going to be the two of us for 5 days up in the mountains. We're going to bring some board games, some minis to paint. It's going to be a ton of fun. I'm not going to be making content, okay? I'm just going to be focused on my wife and having a great time and relaxing for once, hopefully. So that's what I'll be doing. Sorry about the voice. I don't know why my voice is going bad, but I feel fine. I feel fine, and it's going to be a great trip. But that's like later this week, so don't worry about it. You won't even notice, but just know if I'm not responding to your comment, that's probably why. I'm probably out in the mountains somewhere, like, I don't know, sitting by a fire, hopefully, or painting minis, or doing something. I don't know, reading a book. Guys, hope you have a great time. There are some cool campaigns. Like I said, this Trench Crusade and stuff like that coming out. Just suddenly taking the industry by storm, and everybody's loving it. It's super cool. It's got some cool, like, roll multiple dice mechanics and stuff like that. The industry is super cool, and the super cool creators, super cool indie creators, super cool games coming out, but it's also scary. All right, there's also companies not doing so well. Prices are also going up. There's a lot of uncertainty. So it's a weird balance right now, and I get it. I just hope that you continue to find enjoyment in the hobby. Focus on that. Don't focus on the negative so much. Let's just enjoy the hobby and be as smart as we can. With that, guys, have a great rest of your day. Take care. Bye, guys.